Hello everyone and welcome to In My Mug episode 256 on Monday the 7th of October 2013. I am your host Stephen Layton and welcome to In My Mug and welcome to the news! I have to build myself into the news. So, In My Mug was 5 years old on the 6th of October. 5 years of my life doing these. It scares the heck out of me. Thank you so much for your continued support and encouragement to keep doing these. I never ever thought it would kind of get to the point where we were at 256 and still doing them. So thank you guys for making this possible and making me a very happy coffee roaster because you tune in to me every week. I know that some of you have watched all 256 as well, and I am sorry and I will pay for your counselling. And this week we're doing Limoncillo Pacamara Natural, which is a red Pacamara. I've never felt the need to talk about the colour of the Pacamaras before because they're all red. I have never seen anything other than red Pacamara. And you will never have seen it either because I've never seen a yellow version anywhere. It just does, or I thought didn't exist. You're going to find more about this on Focus On, but there is one and we have it coming through the site. And I think we're the first in the world to sell this coffee. But we're not going to sell it any old way. If you're boring, you can buy a bag of the coffee on the site. It is super expensive, by the way, as we bought it in an auction and got very carried away. But we're also going to sell it in a triple pack. And it's going to be called The Good, The Amazing and Ugly. They are all washed Pacamaras. They are all from Limoncillo. But one is the red one, which we've had on the site for a little while now. And is going to be in my mug in the next couple of weeks. One is the yellow, and one is the ugly in the pack. And a coffee that you will not thank me for. It has something wrong with it called phenol. Phenol is it's for me one of the worst defects because it's impossible to see, it's impossible to detect. It's a defect found in lots of origins, but mainly in Colombia, Brazil, Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. And research has come up with no conclusive proof of why it tastes this way and why it ends up being phenolic. It's dirty, it's nasty, it tastes of sulphur, and it's something that I am super sensitive to. And I've only seen on a couple of occasions when I've been cupping at origin. There are no identifiable traits on the cherry, tree, green bean, and only in the cup. Anecdotally, some people say that it's the way that the tree faces the sun. Others say that it's from bad processing. Others say that it's from bacterial, like microbial kind of influences. Some people say that it's a reaction from the coffee tree to the coffee boring insect. But for me, it reminds me a lot of potato. And potato is a defect you find in Rwandas and Burundis, which does come from bacteria. So that's pretty much all I can give to the argument, is that I feel that it probably is the bacterial one that it comes from. And it shows kind of in the coffees that we've got here that it can be found in some of the best farms in the world. Like, it's coming from Limoncillo, which is amazing. And normally you, Joe Public, would not get a chance to try this, and you would be very lucky not to have to try it. But we begged Erwin when I was there 18 months ago that he would find us a few bags of this stuff that he'd normally throw away and allow us to buy it from him, and we did pay money for this coffee to show you what we only ever find on the cupping table at a mill, a farm or an exporter. So yeah, the yellow on its own is going to be 25 quid a bag. I told you it's going to be expensive. But the ugly pack is only going to be £27 a pack. You know, as I've already said, I do warn you that the red is going to be in my mug in the next couple of weeks while we're focusing on Pacamaras, the red washed. But it's an amazing coffee and definitely worth trying twice. The yellow, for very obvious reasons, won't be on in my mug, I'm afraid. Reason one is there's really not enough of it for all you in my muggers that subscribe. And two, you would bankrupt me and I would have no money left. I spent a lot of money on this yellow Pacamara lot, and it's going to be on the site from Monday, so please do go and take a look. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later as well, but Funky and Funkier are two versions of this same natural red Pacamara that we're going to be cupping or tasting today on In My Mug. These will not be hitting In My Mug, as I am too scared that you will all send lynch mobs to come and get me. if I send out the balmy funkier to you. So I promised to tell you if ones weren't going to make in my mug, and that is 2 that will not be making in my mug. And that was the long but very informative, very interesting news! So it's time for Focus On. And as I've already alluded to, it's going to be on Pacamara. Now, instead of me wittering and twittering on about it, when Erwin was here, Erwin from Limoncillo a few weeks back, I recorded a chat. We both sat down here and talked a little bit about Pacamaras, his experiences, how they have them on the farm, how they process them. And he talks in particular about how he came to process his elegant one, which he talks about as his favourite one. It's all new. This was a bit that I recorded after the In My Mug, so no fast forwarding through. This is new stuff that Erwin's talking about, and it's super, super interesting. I will be releasing it as well as a separate video on Hasblog for you to enjoy on its own. But for now, please give it up for Mr. Erwin Maresh. So, I'm joined by a special guest here, Mr. Erwin Maresh from Finca Limoncillo, from Escondida. I'm not going to go through them all again, San Jose. The reason that I've got Erwin here was, you may remember a few episodes back, we did the Longbury washed, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to get somebody who knows lots about Pacamaras, as it's our focus on for this month, and lots about the special Pacamaras that we've got from Limoncillo. So this is going to be going out when we're going to be tasting the elegance and the naturals and the funky Pacamaras. Well, first of all, I'm going to use your experience. Can you tell us a little bit about Pacamaras and how they are to grow, how they are to work with, the conditions that they kind of require to grow in, stuff like that?
Okay. Well, I mean, the little basics on Pacamara, it's a hybrid. It's a cross between a Maragogi, which is a very big tree with a very big size coffee bean. It was found in a city in Brazil called Maragogi.
Okay.
And then it was a cross with a Paca, which is a hybrid or a variation of the Caturra.
Is it the Bourbon?
I
think it's in the Bourbon, isn't it?
No, the Paca is...
Because it was found on San Rafael, wasn't it, in 1950-something.
Right.
Which was basically a botanist from France came along and was walking through the farm, saw this thing, went, that looks different, I'll take it away for genealogy testing, and then forgot the name of the farm, but remembered it was from the Pacas family, so he ends up getting this Pacas. And you may remember we've had the San Rafael on here. The second place was Santa Patrona, which is another farm that we buy from the beginning. So we've separated out all these Pacases. We're kind of so it's from the Caturra, no, from the
the Caturra is a derivation from the Bourbon as well.
Okay,
so everything.
So the genealogy is kind of there in the list. Oh, God, I'm going to have to go back and rewrite all my Pacas stories now. You can't do this to me.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong. This is a story that I was told.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a cross that happened naturally. And if you've tried Maragogi, most Maragogis, like I said, most, not all of them, are just really fancy in bean size, not in cup. Normally in cup they're just pretty flat, flat, bitter, and that's it. But this one, having that cross between the big size bean and then the Paca.
The Pacas, which isn't that amazingly complex cup. I mean, they're interesting, don't get me wrong, but they're not stunning, and the Maragogi is not stunning, but all of a sudden these two come together, and they do become much more of their sum of their parts, don't they?
They do. It's just something totally different. In Central America, I compare it to whiskey, because it's definitely an acquired taste.
Yes.
A lot of people try them, and at first they don't like it, but then they begin to enjoy it, and then at the end they end up loving it.
I hold up my hand. I'm exactly one of those people. I used to hate them.
Yes.
Mushroomy, vegetal. The problem was I've had a lot of bad Pacamaras. Was the first part, because people, 5 years ago, people Pacamaras, like sell everything that's Pacamaras, and some of them were just awful.
Exactly.
And some of them do need certain conditions, I think, like to be a good cut profile.
They do.
But I am a proper convert now. Like this year, we've had 9 Pacamaras so far.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a lot of them from you, but they're really interesting. A really interesting variety. I had one from Mexico recently that was super interesting. Really, really different cut profile.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're so different to the Pacas and the Maragaship?
Oh boy, it's that's.
I'm not expecting you to know the answer.
That's
just
the $1 million question.
It's more like anecdotal. Is there anything that you see anecdotally that think could be that? Is it the plant size? Is it like is there something different?
Boy, I really don't know, but I'm just having to guess that if it's just like anything in flavor, it's the contrast. I'm guessing that the contrast, of the flavor profiles of both of these plants, just when they come together, they things just kind of explode and in a positive way.
For sure, for sure. And I think they're very different in the process. They seem to process very differently. So,
yes.
As in the washed is completely different to the natural. Normally, there's some kind of common thread.
Right.
Like if you have the Caturra, say for instance the Caturra from Limoncillo, we have it washed, pulp natural, and natural. There's a commonality there.
Mm-hmm.
They're different through processing. But with Pacamaras, the washed and the natural are poles apart.
Exactly.
And I guess that's just that magnifying glass of flavour with these two coming together.
Right.
You've done some experiments with the natural processing of the Pacamaras.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you did and like what you've seen in the cut profiles and how different they are?
Okay. Well, definitely. The way we did the naturals when we actually practiced doing naturals with the Pacamaras.
Yeah.
That's how we learned to do naturals. The first natural that we did, we completely fermented it. Silvio Leite from Brazil. He's the one who kind of instructed us on how to do it. And so the first time we did it, I sent him the sample. He goes, "I'm sorry, buddy, but this is fermented." So it kind of messed up.
One man's ferment is another man's fruit.
Well, I've come to realize, I come to believe in that now that we're doing more and more naturals. But no, the way that we treat naturals in Nicaragua. We've always done naturals, but the naturals that we have done have always been treated as lower grade coffees.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just kind of thrown out in the patio to dry, and you just let them rot there. You don't even move them, because they were seen as coffees that weren't going to be exported for local market. So you use most of your manpower to move around all these washed coffees.
Yes.
So when we first started doing the naturals, they were really thick, on the patios, didn't move them quite as much, so it would allow them to ferment a little more.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind with Irwin's situation is that the dry mill and the patios are about 600 metres above sea level.
Yes.
It's super hot. Like, I remember midday there. And then we were just walking across the patios and I thought I was going to die. It was so hot. Like, this skin did not like it at all. It was like bubbling and blistering as we were walking. So it's very hot, so things dry very quickly there, really, don't they? I mean, it's...
Yes, if you leave them out in the sun, you can actually dry coffee in a couple of days.
Wow.
Obviously it's not good for the coffee. Try to slow down the drying process in order to keep the
Bear in mind, in Kenya and Ethiopia, that can be 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So like, that's how hot it gets there. It is super, super warm. That's my one residing memory of. Is it Don Esteban?
Don Esteban, right?
Yeah, so I'm remembering stuff. This is scary.
And in Spanish.
Yeah. It was named after me.
Exactly.
It's Stephen in Spanish, so I can do that one. So you were doing drying experiments, you were doing different thicknesses, different turning times as well?
Exactly, yes.
So we have 3 naturals from you.
Yes.
3 Pacamaras from you, all natural. One's called Elegant, one's called Funky. We had a new edition this year called Funkier. I don't know what we call the next one. Funkiest? Or we just put James Brown on the bag or something. It's
exactly,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, what were the differences between those 3? How did you get to that point?
Okay. Actually, this is something that my sister came up with. Her being a nurse, being very thorough, and hearing all this stuff about naturals and what people didn't like about the naturals, she figured that, If she took the cherry and spread it out thinner and moved it a lot more, so the drying time will become longer. So instead of doing a 22-day drying time, it would become almost the 35, 40-day drying time. The fruit or the funkiest, the funky taste, that's very common with a natural, would kind of fade out.
Right.
And it worked.
Yeah.
When we cupped it, all the professional cuppers, people who actually do cupping as for a living, would prefer the elegant natural over a regular natural.
So the whole name thing came from when we were at the cupping lab at the mill, and I was cupping and cupping the one, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's lovely. It's really elegant, but I missed the funky from last year."
Yes.
And then she went, "I'm back in a minute," and then she came back with this, and I was like, "Funky," and I just love that I had this name on the bag. I had this tiny influence on calling it funky. It was just it made me very, very happy. So it was just a matter of slowing the drying down, made it more elegant, and speeding the drying up, so making it thicker, turning it less regularly.
Not really speeding it up, because it still took about 22 days to dry. But instead of moving it, as often as you would the other one, you would let it sit around, so the coffee would actually ferment, a little bit more. So even when you look at the green, the elegant is pretty uniform, almost all the same color green.
And it roasts much more evenly as well.
Exactly.
It roasts much easier. Like the boys here hate Pacamaras, but they hate funkiest. Like the funkier even more. Like they hate roasting it. It pains them. It gives them a great deal of difficulty getting that because it's so uneven.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that is purely from the drying process.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you look at the funkier, then you have a lot more of the yellow type beans that kind of look like they're sours.
Yeah.
So it's more uneven. And then the funkier, it's even more uneven. So the funkier was actually a mistake.
Yeah.
Because it started raining, so we had to cover it up. So obviously when you have this coffee that's fermenting and hot and you cover it up, it starts fermenting a lot more.
Because the beans generate their own heat with the fermentation process, and you put your hand in, you can actually fit. It's really warm in the centre, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because of this bacterial activity that's going on, breaking down the pectins and the mucilage around the seeds.
Right.
A lot of these guys, I'm sorry, sounds like I'm saying, obviously a lot of the guys won't have actually seen the fermentation, and the smell is phenomenal, isn't it, as well?
It is.
It's pretty unique. The beauty is with the greens are very unique smelling as well, aren't they?
They are. You can actually smell the fruit in the greens.
Yeah.
You can smell the fruit coming through.
Phenomenal.
It's really phenomenal, exactly.
Yeah. So the pulp natural and the washed, obviously we don't have the different ones of those. Which is the easiest to do with the Pacamaras, do you find?
Well, for us, because as a country, I would say 99% of the country produces washed coffee. It's always easier to do a washed coffee because it's what everybody's used to.
Right.
When you bring in a change into a culture, it's very hard for them to get a hold of it and to actually start doing it. So.
And you brought in a lot of changes as well at the mill, at the farms.
Yes. Yes. It took us. We did ruin lots of coffee, learning to do the pulp naturals and the naturals. But now we're getting to the point where my dad loves the naturals because we don't contaminate that much water, at the farm level.
Yes.
So there's less contamination. It does take longer the drying time, so you have to be a lot more careful. You run a risk of ruining the coffee.
I think also your patios, at the start of the season, at the end of the season, there's lots of space, but in the middle of the season, it gets pretty crowded there, doesn't it?
No, we decided that we're not going to do any naturals or pulp naturals in the peak of the harvest.
Okay.
Because we don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
We don't have the space for it. But although that might change because this year we did put in a drying beds. A 3-tier drying bed.
Okay.
For 400 quintales, which is about 4,000 pounds.
Wow.
At one time. And we're going to try that out, and if it works, then we can actually continue doing it in the peak of the season, without actually slowing us down in the other parts, so big old fans to get airflow through there, so.
Wow. They're doing something similar to that in Bolivia as well at the mill there, which I found really interesting. Just because drying space is just so tough to find, isn't it? And
it is
so expensive as well. If you want to lay more, you've got to buy more land and get your flats. So with the Pacamaras, do you have a personal favourite? Do you have one that you enjoy cut profile more than the others?
I love the naturals.
Me too.
The naturals I really, really enjoy. I wasn't a very big fan of naturals. I had to work at a Cup of Excellence.
Erwin was Cup of Excellence head judge for a number of years, and like naturals almost get like they don't happen, do they? In Cup of Excellence, nobody enters a natural lot.
No, they don't.
The Brazilians tried a couple of times and then realised it wasn't going to work. So you become very accustomed to that clean, acidic, fruit bomby, and that's why I love the naturals. When you hit a good natural, it's like whoa. Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about yellow Pacamara. This is the thing that's interesting me because yellow Pacamara is something I've never seen. I've never seen anywhere else. And you gave me a sample 2 years ago on a cupping table that made me want to cry because you wouldn't sell me any of it. And it was delicious. I mean, you wouldn't sell it to me because you were using the seeds as plant stock.
Exactly.
This year has seen your first lot come from that.
Right.
So tell me how that happened, how that came about.
Well, it's the yellow Pacamara. I can't take credit for it. It's a freak natural mutation as well. We have a guard in Limoncillo who became our farm manager. But he was the security guard back in the 90s, and he was walking through the coffee field and he noticed this Pacamara was producing yellow fruit. So he came over and he told my dad, said, "Look, doctor, we have a yellow catuai, inside the Pacamara field. Want to take a look at it, see if we were to rip it out." But then we noticed it was still a big size bean, and we didn't have any yellow catuai. We don't have any yellow catuai in Limoncillo, period. And so we said, "This is impossible." We said, "Wow, this is weird. It's a yellow Pacamara. So it must be a freak mutation. Next year it'll start producing red again." But we didn't cup it or anything. It was just one tree. So then the next year came along, it was yellow again, and then the third year it was yellow again. So I told the manager, I said, "Look, take some seed out of there, plant it, and we'll try to see what happens." He didn't listen to me, so I told the security guard, I said, "Look, take some seed from there, go plant it, and we'll see what happens." He did it, and then we had like 50 trees out of the one tree, and then we started cupping it, and we saw how much different it was. Actually, it looks like a Pacamara, but it tastes so much tropical fruit in it. When I tried it, sorry, I know that red is your favorite color, but as soon as I cup it, yellow just comes to mind. Just
like I am so with you on I cup in colours a lot, and we were doing exactly the same cupping it the other day. We were just like, it's just yellow. Exactly. And he's like, "Yellow what?" And he's like, "No, it's just yellow."
Exactly.
And I so get that. I'm going to show this to Gary because Gary was like, "Yellow's not a cupping descriptor." I'm like, "No, it is." Erwin said so. But it is. It's tropical fruit, and it is that yellow pineapple-y, peach, apricot, that whole thing going on. So have you seen yellow Pacamara anywhere else?
I started asking around, and I called up the Pro Cafe in Salvador, which is the big organization that has all the varietals around the world, supposedly. And I asked them about it, and they said no, they didn't exist.
And now Salvador is where Pacamara thrives and is well harvested, and it's like 10-20% of their crop, isn't it? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if they haven't got it,
but the thing is that that year I had to go and pick the national jury for Cup of Excellence. So I went there, and for the calibration of the national jurors, I took a natural Pacamara for them to try, which really blew their mind. They had never tried a natural Pacamara, but I also took the yellow Pacamara, washed, and there were some guys from the Pro Cafe lab there, and they tried it, and they said, "Look, where'd you get this from?" I said, "No, I'm planted. I got 5 manzanas planted already, You know, and I called you guys, and you guys said that you didn't have it. It's like, well, you know, we do have it, but you know, we tell people we don't have it because we want to get the seed out before everybody starts coming to us.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So they're isolating the seed, you know, and the process of isolating it, pretty much what we did, you know, about 10 years ago, and so it does exist. You know, I know that the Injerto farm in Guatemala also. I've seen some tweets little saying that they're planning. They got the little nursery going and everything. So
that's the thing. Once these things come out as well, I mean, you famously had an auction recently where you were selling the naturally decaf varietal, which is called Laurina, and yeah, that may not have been naturally growing on your farm, might it? It was.
Yes, no, that was actually some seeds that we stole.
Borrowed.
Exactly. You know, we saw a tree. They didn't want to give us any seeds, so we just took some beans, put it in our mouth, you know, and
that's fantastic.
Copied luck.
But no, you know, this is what happens when these new mutations, and coffee's constantly mutating and changing and going into this different thing. Exactly. So, just going back to the yellow Pacamara and the auction. So, you didn't have enough to sell. I was trying to buy it from you. You wouldn't sell it to me because you hadn't got enough, and I'm still bitter about it. But I understand. So you had to find a way that you weren't going to upset Kintaro, who buys coffee from you, and you know, other buyers who come and buy from you, me, and like. So you decided to have an auction.
Right.
What was the motivation for that one? Was it just to do the micro lots, or was it for that reason to say, okay, you want them, pay for them?
Right. Well, no, I mean, the best way to promote, you know, a coffee is to try to get the most amount of money that you can for that one coffee.
Agreed.
You know, even though I hate selling coffee that way because you do tend to upset people who have supported you in the past.
Yeah, you do.
Know? You know, but Nicaragua had just canceled their Cup of Excellence. They weren't going to hold it, you know.
Which is a terrible shame. We've spent a bit of time talking about this today, and I think I really hope Nicaragua gets back on the map, because for me it's a very special competition. It's my first ever jury. It's my first producing country I visited, and it's so sad to not see a country that's done such a good job with the Cup of Excellence competition no longer do it.
No, they're going to hold it once again. I mean, they're already planning it for next year.
Excellent.
You know, but
and have you plans to do the Moresh auction again next year?
That's something we have to see. I mean, for us, it was a superb result, being able to sell, you know, our top lots through there. But I mean, the time was right, and Ace, which is the owner of Cup of Excellence, wanted to start doing the state auctions, so that was a perfect time for them to try to do it. You know, but I don't know if they're going to want to compete with Cup of Excellence. I don't know if they consider it a competition for Cup of Excellence or not. You know, so I still have to talk with the Ace people to see if they want to still support me in doing it.
I think it was an excellent platform to do it on. I mean, other people have tried to do estate auctions in the past through like the Stoneworks platform and other ones, and they've perhaps not been as well supported as they might have been. Whereas I think Cup of Excellence has enough people have bid on there before to have that resonance, and I think that was a lot of the reason for the success.
Exactly.
I think also the amazing lots that you managed to put together.
Yes, those were.
Yeah, I mean, I still think we got the best lot, but that other Pacamara lot that went to Japan was equally as interesting, and it was great to see something like that happening. You know, that promotes a farm that we've already been buying from for a while, so it's really good.
Yes.
So, Pacamaras, have you any other plans for them in the future? Is that where you're at with them now? That you just kind of keep the yellows, grow that side of it, or?
Okay, no, we are growing. We are growing the yellow Pacamaras more than we are the red right now.
Okay.
Just to see, we're in the experimentation stage with the yellow Pacamaras. With the red, I think that at least on our land, we have seen where it is that we want to go.
Yeah. Is there any other farms apart from Limoncillo you planting the Pacamara? No, you've got some on San Jose as well?
We have some yellow Pacamaras in San Jose. I don't know, because of the altitude is not behaving quite as good as it is in Limoncillo.
That's because Limoncillo's better.
You know, I agree. You know, but cup quality is there, but you know, disease resistancy is not, and yield is not either. You know, so
should make it more expensive, I guess, too.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. You know, so we have to see how it behaves there. Like I said, I mean, my dad doesn't do any experimentation small, so he didn't do just 1 acre. You know, he did 20. You know, so it'd be kind of sad I had to tear it out.
So, obviously, you're saying, you know, your dad loves these experiments. I'm always intrigued that you didn't really go down the geisha route, did you?
We tried geisha, you know, and basically where we have planted it, the wind really beat it up, you know. I don't know why Nicaragua above 1,200 meters is really difficult to plant coffee.
Okay.
You know, I don't know because it gets too cold for us. But anyway, it burns the new growth on the coffee tree.
Okay.
You know, so it kind of burns it, you know, and then it gets a bacteria that kind of dries out the coffee tree.
Right.
You know, so for us, it's really difficult. As opposed to Honduras. In Honduras, you know, the new farm that we have 1,900 meters, and we don't have that problem whatsoever. You know, and there we have more water, you know, more humidity, you know, and but the coffee grows. You know,
Have you any plans to do any Pacamaras in Honduras?
We planted already.
Okay.
You know, 5 manzanas of the yellow Pacamara.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and we're doing experiment lots. You know, we have planted. No, next year we have the nursery already. Next year we have orange Bourbon.
Okay.
That we're planting. The yellow Pacamara, we're planting geisha there.
Okay.
From Don Pache from Panama, we bought the seed.
Oh wow.
You know, and we're planting La Guarina as well. You know, so we're gonna have all these at 1,800 meters. You know, so hopefully, you know, it'll work. And
That sounds super interesting. Listen, this is a long video, and I'm probably going to put it out as a separate one on its own because I think it's been really informative. But thank you ever so much for just that little bit of an insight into Pacamara. I feel like I've been schooled. So no, that was awesome. Thank you.
no problem, my pleasure.
Cool. So a long focus on video, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed having the conversation with Erwin. He is such an interesting guy. I wish we could have recorded all of our conversations because they were super interesting. The Pacas varietal that we both talk about, just to clear up, does come from the Bourbon and used to be called San Ramon Bourbon. Mutation, San Ramon Bourbon mutation, before its classification as Pacas. This led to a school of thought that it might be a cross between Typica and San Ramon. And I found quite a bit of evidence on this one, hence Erwin thinking that it came from Typica. But it's been later confirmed due to genealogy tests that it is actually a natural mutation of Bourbon and has no relation to Typica or San Ramon. So clears that one up. Let me just disengage smug mode because I got it right. I do love the part where Erwin talks about the security guard finding the yellow tree. And ultimately that guy working up to farm manager and then ultimately this selling for such a ridiculously high price. I think it is very, very cool. And yeah. But enough Pacamara, it's time to look at the farm. Do you know what? You know about the farm. And if you don't know about the farm, you should really go back and spend some time with episode 253. As he does far more justice kind of talking about the history of the farm, the varietals and all the things on there than I could possibly do here. The only thing I will add to that is that Pacamara is a fairly new thing for us from Limoncillo. This is only the 3rd year of taking it, and we've really been developing how we process it in partnership with Erwin, not telling him what to do, asking him what he can do, and he's really been showing us some interesting stuff. And the reason we didn't have the Pacamara in the olden days is we used to buy it through an importer, and the importer wasn't so keen on the Pacamaras from there, and because it was not my container, I couldn't exist. Now, lots of people look at the benefits of buying directly, being able to set the price, being able to have a link to the farmer. But these are things we've always done with our importers anyway, so it didn't really bring along those benefits because they were already there. But what it does do is we can dictate what coffees we want to bring in our container and the different coffees that the farm produce. For instance, the phenolic I was talking about in the news, no importer would bring that coffee in. But we can talk to the producer and say, this would be interesting for our customers. What can you do for us? Can we buy some of this just to show people? And, then we've suddenly added, 5 Pacamaras that we didn't buy before. And that for me is the real benefit of buying directly. So that's all I'm going to say about the farm. But now it's time to go and do the map bit, and I'm really hoping that I have my computer back for this one. And yeah, I'm sorry for the past few that have been recycled.
It's the map bit, no expense spent. It's the map bit.
So the computer is back, and we go through the routine of going down, going up, and going to Central America, which is where we're looking today. And Central America is somewhere we've spent a lot of time recently, I know, but the number of coffee grown countries, we have 7, population of just short of 42 million, surface area of 523,000 square kilometres. Compare that to the UK, twice the size. But we're going to look at Nicaragua, so let's get into the details of Nicaragua. The name is very obvious. The population is 5.992 million. I think that was in 2009. Around about half the size of the UK, with the capital being Managua. So, yeah, it's a country that is very poor. There we can see the farm. If you look around, all those little gaps are bits where the farmers live, where the workers live. There's lots of accommodation on this farm. Dale the cow is going to tell us that the farm is called Limoncillo. It has an altitude of 1,200 metres above sea level. It is a Pacamara varietal, and the nearest town is Matagalpa. So now we're going to make the maps do something clever and whizzy and a little bit more detail. So yeah, let's try and get a better view where you can kind of whiz round. We're going to show you that this is really in a valley. So you can see this is the very, very top, and then this is down into the valley where the very bottom part of the farm is. Very, very beautiful farm as well. So that was the map bit.
So now it's time for Roland's daft fact of the week. The breeding of this wonderful hybrid was from the genetic department of the Salvadorian Institute for Coffee Research, which was done back in 1958. Hope you found that interesting.
Roland's daft fact of the week.
Roland, we always find you interesting. In fact, Roland is one of the most interesting people I get to talk to. He's a very, very clever man. So, the Wheel of Death is dead. Long live the Wheel of Discovery. So the Wheel of Discovery last time took us to the toilets. I still apologise about the toilets. That was never my plan to take you to go and see toilets with the Wheel of Discovery. But I hope you enjoyed it. So let's go. Oh, where it goes, nobody knows, and everybody cares because it's Discovery. And we're going to my office. Okay, so it's time for us to discover. So if I show you the wheel, it says to Steve's office. So off we go. And yeah, it's we're going through the doors here. We're going to go through this door here. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
See, Chris always gets a guest appearance on the Wheel of Discovery. So this is my office where we have a big giant beanbag. I don't know if you can see that. And we have a fuzzboard table under my big map there. And we can look down at the roastery from here, so I can kind of see everything that's going on. And it doesn't seem... Oh, there he is. Look, there's Mr. Glue. And yeah, that was the Wheel of Discovery. And we are back. I'm going to start by removing this out because it's been brewing for around about 4 minutes. It's a new brewer that we've got from, I think it's from Japan. It looks like a teapot, but it isn't. It's actually meant to be a coffee brewer. So it's kind of immersion brew. Oh, it doesn't pour so good. It's an immersion brewer, but you can remove it, which is obviously good to stop it extracting. So I'm just going to pour that, and we will dive into our espresso, give it a quick stir. Oh. So what I remember of this coffee when I cooked it the first time was Strawberry Angel Delight. And it is there. It is there in big hit of flavour. It is delicious. So you get this really big, look, I finished that. It's that good. Strawberry Angel Delight, very creamy, big mouthfeel, very, very silky, super clean and elegant. And there's that elegance there when it finishes off. Let's go into milk. This is going to be a good one for milk. So that strawberry gets more creamy, it gets more sweeter. This is where you get the bubble gum. So there's this little bit of like a blue bubblegum flavour going on in there. And it's just super, super clean. Even for somebody that's not a fan of milk, that is really delicious. We should do snozzer in the bowl. So let's get the snozzer in. And what I've just tasted in there, in that strawberry, you can kind of smell on here, but it's not like your normal strawberry. It's like a strawberry that's been kind of bruised a little bit. It's going a little bit soft. It's kind of that, you know, where it gets more sweeter, but also a bit more gooey. And you can smell that on the grinds. It's a great coffee to smell again, so you really should get your snozzer in the bowl. And that's what this is, by the way, is snozzer in the bowl. It's not a phallic symbol, as people keep saying to me on email. It is definitely a nose, you rude people. And that is where I get most excited, because that reminds me of the cupping table. And this is where the elegance of this cup really comes out. It is super sweet strawberry with cream. If you've had Angel Delight, it is that Angel Delight deliciousness that is going on in there. There's a little bit of bubblegum, but it's clean and smooth and balanced and sweet and delicious and fruity. This is Erwin's favourite of the of all of the naturals that we do. I'm not sure whether it is my favourite, but it's one of my favourite all-time coffees. So that shows you how good the naturals are. I sometimes kind of fall towards Funky because Funky gets me very excited. It's a great, but this one is very good. I don't know. I'm talking rubbish because I don't know which one I think is the better one. But this one is a very, very good example. I know some of you won't like this, and don't worry, I'm not going to hit you with lots of naturals. As I said in the news, I won't be bringing in the funky or funkier to you because I don't want to scare anybody. And we haven't done a natural for a while, so I thought it was a good time to bring it in. But it's a very good example of how clean naturals can be. So we should do time for the screen grab of the week, and this week's comes from Nigel H. And Nigel has been very clever as he's delved into the archives. Somewhere I think could be a rich vein for screen grabs. So screen grab of the week, here we go. Yeah, Hayley's looking at me very strange on that one. I think Hayley's from The Window, which is in Norwich, a coffee shop you must visit if you're in Norwich. But Hayley's definitely looking at me as if I've landed from another planet. So email in Nigel to claim your t-shirt. Remember, you have just 1 week while the In My Mug is active to email in and to get your t-shirt, so it encourages you to watch every week. It is the t-shirt that money cannot buy, and you can only win with screen grabs or questions for Dale. I can very much do with some questions for Dale for next week, please, so please do send in your questions. But yes, and when you email in, Nigel, please do tell us your t-shirt size and of course your address. Right, time to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining me as always. I hope you're finding this interesting. I hope that you're finding the focus on interesting. I know I'm enjoying it and it's taxing me a little bit. I've got a few blog posts to put up over the next couple of weeks too, so I'll tell you about those as they happen. But do remember, life is too short for bad coffee.